Hey there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. My name is Melissa Miller. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Southern California. And today I thought we would make a scary, cute Halloween card doing some ink blending and using our dies. We will also be doing a coordinating envelope. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's look at our supplies first. We're using the Scary Silhouette dies. This is a 12-piece die set. You get your haunted house, you get a cat, you get the moon, you get 2, 4, 6 of the bats, you get a sentiment die, and then you get this die here. This is where we got our outline, the trees, the branches, and then the frame outline. And what I did here for this die, I've actually already got the pieces all cut because I wanted to make it a little bit simpler. But all I did was line these up. I put the one centerpiece in there and just kind of eyeballed the space in between on the edges and the top and the bottom. And then I just took a piece of my painter's tape, just a small little piece. And then when I get those lined up where I want them, where I think they have good space in between each edge, I just took a little piece of tape and taped those together, just like that. And then I put my paper underneath it and then just ran it through my mini cut and emboss machine. Everything that I did today, I used my mini cut and emboss machine for, and it fit in there perfect. Then we will also be using our basic border dies, and I am using the clouds, which is really nice. This is a nice long die, and I just took it and I cut a piece of paper on both sides and got the cloud formation on there because we're going to be using this piece for a stencil. And then we will also be using the Scary Cute stamp set. I'm just using the Halloween Happiness from there. And then our colors of paper today are, see, I've already got my frame all cut out. That just came out perfect. And I did a house, and we will attach that. My papers today, we've got Highland Heather that we will be ink blending on. We've got Gorgeous Grape for our card base, and I did this top folding. And then I'll show you what else we're going to do. I did stamp the Trick or Treat, You're So Sweet. That will be our inside piece, and we will also ink blend on that, but a little bit later. So first, let's go ahead and start on these. And I really like ink blending on a colored cardstock when you're trying to get a dark, deep background. That is just so rich looking, and I just love that. So my colors for my ink today, we have Highland Heather, Gorgeous Grape, and Night of Navy. And I've got my 3 blender brushes. So let's go ahead and get these open. And I just like to keep the brush by the color so I don't accidentally stick the wrong brush into the wrong color. I think if we go that way, we'll get a little more room. Okay, so we've got our pieces. This is just 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This is going to be our card front. And then I just took a scrap of my Highland Heather here that I knew the border die would fit on because we're going to be cutting that out also. So let's go ahead and get started with our ink blending. And I just move this around. We're going to start with our lightest color first. And I just move my, let's go this way. I just move my handmade stencil here all over the place. And we're just going to lay that down on the bottom just to get started. And since we are on the bottom, we kind of have to hold it a little bit over here. Do this side. Then we'll hold it over here and we'll do this side. And we're just going to go ahead and start that ink blending. And I used the light and the dark purple, the Highland Heather and the gorgeous Grape, because there really is a contrast. You wouldn't think there's much, but I can really tell the difference. Okay, so let's switch over to our other color, and we're going to flip this over. We just did that shape there. Now we're going to flip it over so we can get different cloud formations throughout the whole panel. And when you get to the darker colors, you don't need a whole lot on there. So let's flip this back over and we'll move up a little bit, and we're going to go on to our Night of Navy. Just get some good color on there. And then back to our other color. Our next color, our continuing color, is the Highland Heather. We're back to the lighter one, and you will still be able to see that over the darker. Believe it or not, you can. And I am just going to continue in that order all the way up. All right, there you go. We've got our pieces ink blended. So now I want to make them a little bit darker. See, I was a little more heavy-handed over here on this smaller piece. So let's bring in our brushes again, and we're just going to go over these lighter areas with our dark colors, just to get it a richer, deeper shade. And this just turns out so beautiful. I stuck my finger in those ink pads a couple times, which is no big deal. It comes off easy, but it is just a little discouraging. There we go. See how that just turns that panel nice and rich. Let's get some more purple down here. This is the gorgeous Grape. And just get those areas nice and blended. And you can still see the cloud formation, so you're not really changing your pattern, you're just adding some more color on there. And then we're going to do the same thing with our little piece down here at the bottom, because that was our Highland Heather, and it didn't get any ink on there, so we're just going to add a little bit of ink on there. Get those lighter areas filled in. Just like that. And this is such a rich color combination. Okay, you know what? And I think I want the bottom a little bit darker on this one. So what we can do is we can bring our stencil back in, find where it goes, and then just add more color. So let's do that down here on the bottom. Just kind of hang on to it. Sometimes it will get away from you. And I think that looks better. That added some richer color in there. I think I want a little bit more blue. Night of Navy. Oh yeah. There we go. Okay, so our pieces are ink blended, and I wanted to show you, I also did the envelope, and what I did on my envelope was basically the same thing. We need a new piece of paper, and we want to protect that envelope. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fold that in there. So that way the rest of the back of the envelope is protected, and we only stencil on this part. And I started with the lightest first, the Highland Heather. And I just added color there. And I'm doing this because I want to get it a little darker. I know it's already done, but I just want to get it a little darker. And so you can always come back in and make it darker. Then we're going to go with our Night of Navy. Get that a little bit darker. And then we've got our gorgeous grape. Just line that up. It's really easy to line it up. And that is darker. So now I'm just going to go over the whole thing like I did on our panel, just to make it a little deeper. And that is so pretty. I love those rich colors together. Okay, so there's our envelope. Now what we need to do, we've got all our ink blending done. We're going to close these up. Now we need to add our splatters on here. And so what I use is I just have an old box that I use for my splatter box. And I'll put my pieces in there. And what we're going to do, before we do that, we need to mix our splatter mix. So what I do is I just take an old block. This is a Stampin' Up block, paper pumpkin block. And I just squirt some water on there. You don't need a whole lot. I just got a little bit of water on there. You can always add more. And then I'm going to be using our Whisper White Pigment ink. And we just need a little bit of that. Just a small little blob there. And then we're going to mix it. This is just a cheap old paintbrush that I've had forever. And you can tell how thick it is if you need to add more water, if you need to add more ink. And I think that might be okay. So let's bring our box back in. We've got both of our panels in there. And we're just going to splatter. I don't do anything fancy. I just kind of tap my paintbrush and it makes beautiful splatters all over the whole thing. Now, because this is a pigment ink, the white is pigment. It does take a little while to dry, but I just wanted to show you how I do this. Super easy. And then you can just, kind of hover over the areas that you think you might need more splatters. And it goes on pretty well. I think that's perfect. So now we will take these out of here, set these aside and let them dry. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to smear it. Okay. And then I just keep all my tools in there. I keep my paintbrush and my block in there after I've washed them. And that way I have all my paint stuff together. So now I got to find a place for that paintbrush. There we go. Now I already have one that I did the other day that is dry, and we will go ahead and get started. You know what? And it looks like I forgot to ink blend my inside piece. So let's bring back our paper here and our stencil. And I'm just going to use the ink that is still on my brushes. I don't want to add ink because I want to be able to still write on this. This will be our inside of our card. And I just want to give the illusion. I don't necessarily want to get a dark image on here. This is just our inside. So I'm keeping that nice and light. And they don't have to be really close together, cloud formations. You can space them out. Or if you want to, you can keep them closer together. I just want a little bit of detail on here. just to bring in those dark purple and blue Halloween type colors, just to carry it to the inside, our theme. And like I said, I did not add any ink to these. I'm just using the leftover ink from when we did our panels. There we go. And then we'll just fill in that white area a little bit with our Night of Navy. And then it's still light enough that you can write your message on the inside. Perfect. We'll put that aside. And let's work on our image here. Okay, so this was the little scrap. And I just cut the frame out because we are going to need that. All I did was cut that out. This one's not dry yet, but this one is, so I just cut it out. I've got my house, my sentiment. I white heat embossed our sentiment. Let me wipe my hands off here. Okay, so I've got all my little pieces here also. I had a whole bunch of bats left over from my witch card, so I'll be using those up. I did a white moon that I cut out of just regular white paper. I've got a couple little scraps of crushed curry here that we're going to put behind the windows of our haunted house. We just need a little bit of glue. And ink blending is a little bit messy, but you know what? It comes right off with soap and water because they are dye inks. And I'm just going to place that over the window. Then I've got another little scrap over here for the second window. That's why you always save your scraps. They come in handy. And now it looks like our windows are lit up. So we're going to flip this over, and I just did a thin little line here of glue to attach our house. It will stay in place with dimensionals also. So just a thin little line. And there we've got our image. The glue will dry clear. I just like to wipe off any excess that came through. So now we can add dimensionals to this, and I am using our black dimensionals, and I'm going to cut off the edge. You've seen me do this before. That way we get a nice thin little strip. There we go. Kind of sticky today. Didn't want to cut very well. Then we'll have to cut quite a few of those edges off because we want to put this all the way around so our image is popped up. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Okay, there we go. I just wanted to make sure I got that whole area all covered so it stands up nicely. Then we're going to bring in our splattered piece that we die cut. We're just going to attach this right over the top. Okay, so all those little release papers are off, and we are just going to place this right on top. And it looks like I've got some of my dimensionals. You can look through it and see if they're sticking through and kind of move them around. There we go. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer to me just so I can see. I want to make sure I lay it right on top. Perfect. And that just goes right on top. It fits perfectly. Just give that a nice little push down there. Then we're going to bring in our moon. I've got my tweezers here. We're just going to put a little dot of glue on there. Put that in there. And then I'm also going to place 2 of our smaller bats in there. Just like that. Let's see where we got them. Let me look at my sample here. Okay, so we put one down here. And then we'll put one on the other side. And I just love ink blending. It makes such nice backgrounds. It is a little messy. I always seem to get quite a bit on my hands, but it does make for a nice card. Throw that one in there. And now we can add our little image here to our card base. But first we need some dimensionals for our sentiment. And I put the sentiment on first, just so I can make sure I get everything nice and straight. So I kind of looked at it to see where I wanted that. And then I looked to see how much space I had for my sentiment. And I think I want it right about there. So let's bring in our T ruler just to make sure it's straight. I think that's probably pretty good. Get that out of the way. Let's see. Perfect. And then we can add our piece here. We're going to use some more dimensionals. And I just love that we have black dimensionals. That way you don't see the white. And when you purchase the black dimensionals, you get 2 sheets of the larger ones, and then you also get 2 sheets of the mini dimensionals. So those always come in handy. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Stampin' Up! Is doing a September weekly deals. So once a week, actually on the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd, they will be announcing weekly deals. I looked at the deals for this week, and they had some really nice stuff on there. They had some designer series paper that was $3 off. They had, they just had a whole bunch of stuff on there. And I got ink all over my fingernails. Look at that kind of ombre look. Okay, so now we will do our little bats. Let's add those on there. So I lost one of my little bats. I will probably find it when I edit the video, but for now we're going to add another one. I don't know where he flew off to. He flew off to somewhere. Okay, add this guy here, and then we can add this to our card base. So I've got Gorgeous Grape for my card base. I did a top folding card. So now I've got our inside liner piece, and I'm just going to trim this a little. I left this at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but I want it to kind of layer in there. So let's just trim this a little bit. Okay, now we can add this to the inside. And everything coordinates. Our envelope, our inside layer, everything. I'm not usually a purple person, but you know what? It's been kind of growing on me lately. I do kind of like it. All right, so here is the card that we did today. Do you like that one? Or do you like the, where did it go? Where's my other sample? Darn it. Or do you like, here we go, the one without the splatters? I've got one with splatters and one without splatters. What is your favorite? Please comment, please leave me a message, please like, and please share. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.